Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yatha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalite Shri Vishakam Vitam Sya Om Agyana Timranda Shagyanajana Shalakaya Chakshurum militam yena tasma Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhishtam Supurakam Garganara Sesha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govindam Bidam Ujvalam Varatanum Bhaktyan Bidam Sundaram Mande Vishwa Gurun Chadibhyad Bhagavat Prem Noe Bijapranam Devam Divyatanam Suchandabaranam Balar Kachelan Shitam Sandrananda Puram Sadekavaranam Vairagya Vidyambudim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Varam Banditam Shivaram Madeka Sharanam Yashishwara Shidaram Vanchakopatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahamananyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishay Namah. So we're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad. This is the Madhya-lila, chapter 1, the later pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And I'll begin with verse number 102. So we're hearing a resume of all the Madhya and Madhya-lila in this first chapter. Krishnadas Kaviraj is giving that. So verse 102. Tabeta Korila Prabhu Dakina Gaman Kurmaketre Koila Vasudeva Vimochan. After bestowing his mercy upon Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the Lord started for southern India, for South India. When he came to Kurma Kshetra, he delivered a person named Vasudeva. Jiyana Nashringe Koila Nashringa Staban Pate Pate Grame Grame Namo Pravartan. After visiting Kurma Kshetra, the Lord visited the South Indian temple of Jiyada Nrsinga and offered his prayers to Lord Nrsingadev. On his way, he introduced the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in every village. Godavari Tirabane Brindavana Brahma Ramananda Rai Saha Tahai Milana. Once the Lord mistook the forest on the bank of the river Godavari to be Vrindavan. In that place he happened to meet Ramananda Roy. Trimala Tripadistana Koiladarshan Sarvatra Korila Krishna Nama Pracharan. He visited the places known as Tirumala and Tirupati, where he extensively preached the chanting of the Lord's holy name. Tabita Pashande Gane Korila Dalan Ahovala Nishingade Koiladarshan. After visiting the temples of Tirumala and Tirupati, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to subdue some atheists. He then visited the temple of Ahovala Nishinga. Shri Ranga Chetra Aila Kaverir Tira Shri Ranga Dakiya Preme Hoila Astira. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to the land of Sri Ranga Chetra on the bank of the Kaveri, he visited the temple of Sri Ranganath and was there overwhelmed in the ecstasy of love of Godhead. Trimala Bhatter Gare Koila Prabhu Bas Tahai Rohila Prabhu Varsha Charimas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived at the house of Trimala Bhatta for the 4 months of the rainy season. Sri Vaishnava Trimala Bhatta Parama Pandita Gosaira Panditya Preme Oila Vishmita.
Made a chai
Okay.
from tea bag.
Okay,
It's
thank
tea
you.
bag chai. may not be so good.
Okay, nice.
So.
Nice. Sri Vaishnava Trimalabhata Parama Pandit Gosaira Panditya Preme Hoila Vishmita. Trimalabhata was both a member of the Sri Vaishnava community and a learned scholar. Therefore, when he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was both a great scholar and a great devotee of the Lord, he was very much astonished. Chaturmashyataha Prabhu Sri Vaishnavera Sane Gunaila Nritya Gita Krishna Sankirtane. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed the Chaturmasya months with the Sri Vaishnavas, singing, chanting the holy name, and dancing. Chaturmasyante Puna Dakina Gaman Paramananda Purisaha Tahai Milan. At the end of Chaturmasya, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued traveling throughout South India. At that time, he met Paramananda Puri. Tabe badatare hoite Krishna dasara udar Ramajapa vipramuke Krishna nama prachar. This is interesting because it says here that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed the Chaturmasya months with the Sri Vaishnavas, singing, chanting the holy name, and dancing. It's interesting because after the last Chaturmasya, Mahaprabhu was in Jagannath Puri, and he after the Chaturmasya, and he told all the devotees, come every Chaturmasya, come to Jagannath Puri for the Rathayatra, because the Rathayatra occurs in this time. But it says here, it mentions that Mahaprabhu traveled in South India, and he passed the 4 months of the Chaturmasya with the Sri Vaishnavas. That's when he met with Trimalabhata. That means Mahaprabhu was traveling a long time already, you can see, because he left a few months after Chaturmasya and he began his South Indian traveling. And then it says the next Chaturmasya he passed with the Sri Vaishnavas in Trimala. So he's traveling more than, he's traveling many good amount of months when he went to South India. It says, after the end of Chaturmasya, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued traveling throughout South India. At that time, he met Paramananda Puri. Tabe badatare hoite Krishna daser udar Rama japi bipramuke Krishna nama prachar. After this, Krishnadas, the servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was delivered from the clutches of the Bhattataris. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then preached that Lord Krishna's name should also be chanted by Brahmins who were accustomed to chanting Lord Rama's name. So he converted the I guess it's called the Sri Vaishnavas, who are mostly devotees of Lord Rama, but he also got them to chant Lord Krishna's name. In the Maladar district, a section of the Brahmins are known as Nambudari Brahmins, and the Bhattataris are their priests. Bhattataris know many tantric black arts, such as the art of killing a person, of bringing him under submission, and of destroying or devastating him. They are very expert in these black arts, and one such Bhattatari bewildered the personal servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu while the servant accompanied the Lord in his travels through South India. Somehow or other, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered this Krishnadas from the clutches of the Bhattatari. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is well known as Patita Pavan, the savior of all fallen souls, and he proved this in his behavior towards his personal servant, Krishnadas, whom he saved. Sometimes the word Bhattatari is misspelled in Bengal as Bhattamari. So these Bhattataris, they know black arts, and they sent some women to bewildered or to possess this Krishnadas, who was Mahaprabhu's servant. So then the Bhattataris, Mahaprabhu, the Bhattataris, they're like renunciants, but they're black, what do you call it? Black
Black arts.
Yeah, black arts. Yeah, so then Mahaprabhu went to them and says, you are renunciants and I'm a renunciant. Why are you taking my servant Krishnadas? And when he said that, they ran at Mahaprabhu with hatchets and knives. They wanted to kill him. But all the hatchets and knives fell out of their hands and began cutting their own body, cut off some of their legs and some of their arms. And after that, because they tried to kill Mahaprabhu, but their own hatchets turned, by Mahaprabhu's power, turned against them. And then they ran away. They ran away screaming. And Mahaprabhu took Krishnadas by the hair, and he dragged him with it. He grabbed him by the hair and brought him with him. Shri Rangapuri Saha Tahai Milan Ramadasha Vipra Koila Dukkha Vimochan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then met Sri Rangapuri and mitigated all the sufferings of a Brahmin named Ramadas. Well, that Ramadas, he was a devotee of Lord Ramachandra, and he was practically fasting to death because he was so upset because Sita had been, he said Sita was kidnapped by Ravana, and he was very upset by that. And then Mahaprabhu, when he went to Kurmakshetra, he found the book that explained in the Shastra, and he found where it said that Ravana never touched Sita, that Sita, she was protected by Agni Dev, and a false Sita was given called a Maya Sita. And Ravana kidnapped that Maya Sita. And then Ramachandra, after he defeated Ravana, then some people were saying that, well, then Sita entered into the fire and the real Sita came out. That Maya Sita entered into the fire and the real Sita came out. So like that. I'm not maybe telling properly, but that's what happened. Shri Rangapuri Saha Tahai Milan Ramadasha Viprer Koila Dukkha Vimochan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then met Sri Rangapuri and mitigated the sufferings of a Brahmin named Ramadas. So then Mahaprabhu showed that Ramadas, look, here it says about Sita that Ravana never touched Sita. And then, because that Ramadas was going to fast to his death. But then when Mahaprabhu showed him that, then he was happy. And when he first came there, he didn't cook for Mahaprabhu because he said, we're all very upset. And then after Mahaprabhu showed him that from the Puranas about the real Sita was protected and came back when Ravana was defeated, and then that Ramadas saw those pages, and then he cooked a nice meal for Mahaprabhu. Tatvavadi sahakoila tatvara vichar apanake hinabudi oilata savar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also had a discussion with the Tattvavadi community, and the Tattvavadis felt themselves to be inferior Vaishnavas. The Tattvavadi sect belongs to Madhvacharya Vaishnava's community, but its behavior differs from the strict Madhvacharya Vaishnava principles. There is one monastery named Uttararadi, and one of its commanders was named Raghuvarya Tirtha Madhvacharya. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also had a discussion with the Tattvavadi community, and the Tattvavadis felt themselves to be inferior Vaishnavas. I also met with the Tattvavadis, and they say things that are a little different. Like one of the things they were saying is that there are different kinds of souls, and one of the souls they call tamasic souls or tamasic souls, and they said those souls can never be delivered. And that's not our philosophy. Our philosophy is all living entities can be delivered by the chanting of the holy name and by the mercy of the Vaishnavas. So. Ananta Purushottama Sri Janardan Padmanabha Vasudeva Koiladarashan. Mahaprabhu then visited the Vishnu temples of Anantadev, Purushottama, Sri Janardan, Padmanabha, and Vasudeva. The temple of Ananta Padmanabha Vishnu, a temple of Ananta Padmanabha Vishnu is situated in the Trivandrum district, Tiruvananthapuram. The temple is very famous as in those quarters. Another Vishnu temple named Sri Janardan is situated about 26 miles north of the Trivandrum district near the railway station called Varakala. Okay, the name of that place I was trying to remember, Bangalore. Yeah, Bangalore. And then near that is the center of Madhvacharyas called Udupi. And that Udupi is where I met with the main center of Madhvacharya is in Udupi, and there he has his deity and everything. And that's where I met. I didn't go to Udupi, but I met with the Tattvavadis because they're mainly in that Karnataka state where Bangalore is. I met with them in Bangalore. But here it says, the Tattvavadi sect belongs to Madhvacharya Vaishnava community, but its behavior differs from the strict Madhvacharya Vaishnava principles. And when Mahaprabhu went there, they saw him. Mahaprabhu appeared to be just, his dress was a sannyasi, so they assumed he was a Mayavad sannyasi. So they didn't speak with him. But then when Mahaprabhu was dancing and chanting in ecstasy before the deity of Madhvacharya, then they knew he was a Vaishnava. But they were very proud, and then they came to Mahaprabhu, and then Mahaprabhu spoke to their acharya, and he said, so what is the goal of life, and how can one attain it? And they told him the goal is liberation, moksha, and you can attain it by executing your duty in the varnashram dharma system. And Mahaprabhu then told them, you're just saying that because you see I'm a sannyasi, so you're trying to flatter me by saying that the perfection of life can be attained by in the Varnashram Dharma system, because in the Varnashram Dharma system, a Brahmin is the highest of the so-called caste, and the sannyasi of the ashrams, the sannyasi is the highest. So sannyasi would be a Brahmin and the highest of the spiritual orders of both the Varnas and the Ashramas. So Mahaprabhu says, I'm a sannyasi, so you're trying to tell me the success of life is attained in the Varnashram Dharma system because I'm a sannyasi. I'm in that point of the Varnashram Dharma system. So he says, you're just trying to flatter me. But he says, this doesn't lead to the success of life. Success of life is not obtained by being perfect in the Varnashram Dharma system or being a good sannyasi like this. And he said, and the perfection is not liberation. The perfection is to attain, devotional service and love of Godhead. So he said, you're just answering these questions to flatter. So he rejected, and then they were ashamed when Mahaprabhu told him, no, the real process is devotional service and attain love of God. And he told like that. And then they here it says, and the Tattvavadis felt themselves to be inferior Vaishnavas, because they say many different. Anyway, that was also my experience that they were speaking like that. They were speaking not according to what Madhvacharya taught. Actually, Tattvavadis. But they say they're followers of Madhvacharya. Tabe Prabhu Koila Sapta Tala Vimochan Setu Bande Snana Rameshwara Darshan. After that, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered the celebrated Shaptatala trees, took his bath at Setu Banda Rameshwar, and visited the temple of Lord Shiva known as Rameshwar. It is said that the Saptatala trees were very old, massive palm trees. There was once a fight between Vali and his brother Sugriva, and Lord Ramachandra took the side of Sugriva and killed Vali, keeping himself behind one of those celebrated trees. Mahaprabhu kept himself. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu toured South India, he embraced the trees which were delivered and directly promoted to Vaikuntha. So it says in one other earlier edition, I think, of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says those trees were very massive and probably, I think, used the word bulky. They were very massive and bulky, and 7 trees. And Mahaprabhu embraced those trees, and they all went to Vaikuntha somehow or other, a big tree. So people were thinking, oh, he is Lord Rama himself, but because who can do this with trees? That all of a sudden trees leave. Even David Copperfield cannot do that. After that, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered the celebrated Saptatala trees, took his bath at Setubandha Rameshwar, and visited the temple of Lord Shiva known as Rameshwar. Tahai Korila Kurma Purana Shravan Maya Sita Nileka Ravan Tahate Ligan. At Rameshwar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a chance to read the Kurma Purana, in which he discovered that the form of Sita kidnapped by Ravana was not that of the real Sita, but a mere shadow representation. It's not at Kurma Kshetra, it's the Kurma Purana. That's what. The Kurma Purana states that this shadowy Sita, Maya Sita, was placed into a fire as a test of chastity. It was Maya Sita who entered the fire and the real Sita who came out of the fire. That's what it says here. So it says, who entered the fire was Maya Sita. or Maya Sita, or Madre Sita. And who came out was the real Sita. Shunya Prabhur Anandita Hoilaman Ramadas Viprera Kata Hoila Smaran. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very glad to read about the false Sita, and he remembered his meeting with Ramadas Vipra, who was very sorry that Mother Sita had been kidnapped by Ravana. Se Puratana Patra Agraha Korinila Ramadase Shik Dekaya Dukkha Kandaila. Shri Se Puratana Patra Agraha Korinila Ramadase Dekaya Dukkha Kandila. Indeed, Mahaprabhu eagerly took this page from the Kurma Purana, although the book was very old, and he later showed it to Ramadas Vipra, whose unhappiness was mitigated. So you could get, the book is written on palm leaves. So they can copy that palm leaf and then take it. So Mahaprabhu had the palm leaf, had that copied, and he took the old leaf where it was written about the false Sita, and he took it to show to that Ramadas Vipra. And he showed him, look, here, this is the page. This is the page from the Kurma Purana, and it talks about the real Sita was never touched. So you don't have to feel sad that Ravana, he has touched or kidnapped the real Sita. It was a false Sita or a Maya Sita who was kidnapped. Then Ramadas became happy because he could understand that Ravana never could kidnap Sita. Brahma Samhita Kurma Brahma Sita Karnamrita Dui Bhuttibhaya Dui Pushtaka Loya Aila Uttama Janiya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also found two other books, namely the Brahma Samhita and Krishna Karnamrita. Knowing these books to be excellent, he took them to present to his devotees. In the olden days, there was no presses, and all the important scriptures were handwritten and kept in large temples. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu found the Brahma Samhita and Krishna Karnamrita in handwritten texts, because they're all handwritten, and knowing them to be very authoritative, he took them with him to present to his devotees. Of course, he obtained the permission of the temple commander. Now both the Brahma Samhita and Krishna Karnamrita are available in print with commentaries by Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. Punarapi Nilachale Gaman Korila Bhaktagane Milia Snana Jatra Dekila. After collecting these books, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Jagannath Puri. At that time, the bathing ceremony of Jagannath was taking place, and he saw it. One person here could be a temple commander. Braja Mohini. She could be a temple commander. Until she gets sad, then she couldn't be.
Maharaj, Janardan, the temple commander, not really so necessary. The people shall be themselves willing and looking.
I tell you,
to be like
maybe necessary or may not be necessary, but it's even mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, so it is necessary. I mean, they're the person that takes responsibility to see that the spiritual programs go on, that people attend, that people, do things properly. They have, they tell and they correct people. When I was new, that's in a mission, there was always always was a temple commander. And in some of the places I went, the temple commander, when I joined when I was 25 years old, and I was one of the oldest persons in the temple. And the temple commander was younger than me by about 4 or 5 years, I remember. I remember the temple commander, he's visited here. His name was Kulashekar. He was younger than me, and he was the temple commander. But, you know, the temple commander is good because he tells somebody, he'd say, we're all leaving at 2 o'clock. We're going to Sankirtan, go chant in the streets, so get ready. And then everybody would be ready, and then take all the people with him, and he'd go to do Sankirtan. You need to have that kind of person. That's very good. But of course, in that time I was in ISKCON, and ISKCON was more, even Prabhupada said it was run a little more like the army. Yeah. Yeah.
Was Srila Govinda Maharaj temple commander?
Something, yeah. When Guru Maharaj was alive, then Govinda Maharaj did like that, because one time Govinda Maharaj said, while Guru Maharaj was alive, he said, I was an autocrat, which means a temple commander. He said, I was an autocrat. But after Guru Maharaj left, I had to then have democracy. So when Guru Maharaj was alive, Govinda Maharaj would just give all the orders, do this, do that. But he said after that, Guru Maharaj passed away, then Govinda Maharaj was the Acharya, and being the Acharya, he wasn't the autocrat anymore. He had to be he had to have democracy. And that's what, that's what I also, am kind of forced to do all the time here, is democracy. I can't, I can't really. When I try to be, give some direction, then I have to, after a while, I have to back off, because it becomes too much. Because if somebody who is like the guru is too heavy with people, then they start crying. And you can't have that. You can't. You really, then it really disturbs people. It really disturbs people. But if I had somebody who's like a temple commander, it wouldn't disturb people. They just, and I'll say this, in some ways, Hashapriya, he's like a temple commander. In some ways. He's a manager. And that's what a temple commander is. And in some ways, he's like the temple commander. But now even, he's getting old also. So he's actually looking for somebody else who can do that. This is all not necessary to be talking about this, but it says here. Where does it say that? It says, of course he obtained permission of the temple commander when he took the book. After collecting these books, Mahaprabhu returned to Jagannath Puri. At that time, the bathing ceremony of Jagannath was taking place, and he saw it. Okay. Punarapi nilachali gamana korila bhaktakani miliya snana jatra dekila. After collecting these books, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Jagannath Puri. At that time, the bathing ceremony of Jagannath was taking place, and he saw it. Anavasare Jagannath na paya darshan virahe alalanata korila gaman. When Jagannath was absent from the temple, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who could not see him, felt separation and left Jagannath Puri to go to a place known as Alalanath. So what's happened here is, I'll read the purport, it'll explain this. Alalanath is also known as Brahmagiri. The place is about 14 miles from Jagannath Puri, and is also on the beach. There is a temple of Jagannath there. At the present moment, Okay. The word anavasara is used when Sri Jagannathji cannot be seen in the temple. After the bathing ceremony, Snanayatra, Lord Jagannath apparently becomes sick. He is therefore removed to his private apartment where no one can see him. Actually, during this period, renovations are made on the body of the Jagannath deity. This is called Navayovana. During the Rathayatra ceremony, Lord Jagannath once again comes before the public. Thus, for 15 days after the bathing ceremony, Lord Jagannath is not visible to any visitors. So I've seen this, that when there's what's called Snan Yatra, it's 15 days before the Rathayatra, they take Lord Jagannath out of the temple and put him on top of the compound. There's a place, and you can see the bathing of Lord Jagannath from the street. And then they have the Snan Yatra. That's the Snan Yatra, and they do Abhishek of Lord Jagannath, or bathing. And then they say after that Lord Jagannath catches a cold or becomes ill. And so for 15 days, he's not in the temple. They take him, I guess they're maybe, and what Govinda Maharaj called that nourishment. And actually, that once a year, they're painting Lord Jagannath and everything like that. And then, after 15 days, then they have the Rathayatra. And now Jagannath's really nice and very, very pretty and everything, very nice looking. And all the deities come, they've all been nourished, as Govinda Maharaj says. And then they have the Rathayatra. So Mahaprabhu, during that 15 days, when you can't see Lord Jagannath because he's not in the temple, then Mahaprabhu would become very sad, and he would go to the temple of Alalanath. He would go there, which is about 14 miles away, it says, and then Mahaprabhu would stay there until the Rathayatra. Then he would come back because he couldn't see Lord Jagannath. He was sad. So Bhaktasane Dina Kata Taha Rahila Godera Bhaktaishe Samachara Paila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained for some days at Alalanath. In the meantime, he received news that all the devotees from Bengal were coming to Jagannath Puri, because Mahaprabhu told them, come for the Rathayatra. Now we heard the last Chaturmasya, Mahaprabhu wasn't there, he was in South India. But now all the devotees have come from Bengal. They know Mahaprabhu is there, and some word was sent. Mahaprabhu's come back to Jagannath Puri, and they've all come to Jagannath from Bengal to Jagannath Puri for the Rathayatra. Nityananda Sarvabhauma Agraha Korinya Nilachali Aila Mahaprabhu Keloya. When the devotees from Bengal arrived at Jagannath Puri, both Nityananda Prabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya greatly endeavored to take Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu back to Jagannath Puri. Virahe Vibula Prabhu na jane ratri dine henakale aila godera bhaktagane. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally left Alalanath to return to Jagannath Puri, he was overwhelmed both day and night due to separation from Jagannath. Okay, so there's still 15 days is going on. He lamented, his lamentation knew no bounds. During this time, all the devotees from different parts of Bengal, and especially from Navadip, arrived in Jagannath Puri. So Mahaprabhu would have stayed in Alalanath longer because Jagannath is still not in the temple. So then, but the devotees from Bengal had arrived, so Nityananda Prabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, they persuaded Mahaprabhu to come back. But so he came back to receive the devotees. Sabimili Jukti Kore Kirtana Arambila Kirtana Aveshi Prabhu Mana Stira Hoila. After due consideration, the devotees began chanting the holy name congregationally. Lord Chaitanya's mind was thus pacified by the ecstasy of the chanting. Purve Chabe Prabhu Ramanandare Milila Nilachale Ashibare Tare Agyadila. Previously, when Mahaprabhu had been touring South India, he had met Ramananda Rai on the banks of the Godavari. At that time, it had been decided that Ramananda Rai would resign from his post as governor and return to Jagannath Puri to live with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Ramananda Rai had a position of wealth and honor that had been given to him by the king, Pratraparudra. But Mahaprabhu was so happy with Ramananda Rai, he convinced Ramananda Rai to resign from his position and come and stay with him. So in the later years, the two main persons with Mahaprabhu were Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar. Rajagya Loya Teho Aila Katadine Ratridine Krishna Kata Ramananda Sane. And that in the 8th chapter of the Madhya-lila is called the Ramananda Sambad. And that's, Guru Maharaj especially would read that chapter, the discussions between Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai. They're very beautiful and very philosophical part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita when Mahaprabhu was in South India and he met with Ramananda Rai. And Mahaprabhu was so happy with Ramananda Rai that he asked him, come to Jagannath Puri and stay with me. Under the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Ramananda Rai took leave of the king and returned to Jagannath Puri. After he arrived, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very much enjoyed talking with him, both day and night, about Lord Krishna and his pastimes. Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Jaravaya Namah Charavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Maranamon Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Ganadana Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanata Bhatta Raguna Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raguna Ekchai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jaoite Vignana Shamista Puran Ekchai Gosai Charmui Tarandas Kasavar Pada Renu Mora Panchagras Padir Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Janame More Ambilas Ekchai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majayaman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudar. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmala Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Panamansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tarasada Shishima Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Panamansa Paravajaka Charya Ashtatara Sadashi Shima Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namachar Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Vishvabaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Kusham Ashram Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Tilat Niriya Maharaj Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.